I'd like to share with those that are curious about me as a person what kind of mental and emotional processes have gone on for me over the course of the last few years, especially concerning the 4 great personal revelations that have arrived one by one stacked on top of each other for me. Now understand from the start that these revelations are those of a man who either has solved existence, revelation number 1, and then fallen under the delusion that he was once Jesus, revelation number 2. Or a man who has solved existence and truly was Jesus. Here is the point that I have not been able to escape amidst all of my doubts and confusions. Either way, whether I can accurately be said to be crazy or not, I have solved existence. There really is no escaping it. The question is, did solving existence drive me mad, or did it open my eyes to just more truth? I did not ask to be told I was him. I did not wish to be told I was him. But every time I doubt it, I can't help but be reminded, yeah, but solving existence is a dead giveaway. Nobody else in history gets to say this. Yes, I have been philosophically and metaphysically curious all my life. I have desired to know and asked for the truth, whatever it may be, please, since I was a boy. But I've never been religiously inclined. I do not wish to hurt the feelings of those who are devoutly and sincerely religious, just as I don't wish to hurt the feelings of mathematicians and scientists. I just desire for you to know something about who I am and have been. The Christian religion exists in all its diverse forms, and I exist in my singular form. And of course, the two are connected. How could that not be true? But we are not the same thing. One of us knows who he is and what is going on, and the rest, through zero fault of our own, do not. As the truth in eternal expansion, we periodically self-polarize as we transition to a higher level of self-differentiation than we have experienced before. This is a natural result of unending self-expansion. We knew the general process of amnesia that we would be faced with. We knew the general journey of self-polarization that we were going to take, and so we planned our route together. We designed our itinerary for the trip. We assigned roles and drew up our navigation charts. The we I refer to is us. There is only one of us here. But at the highest level of our own self-differentiation, at the level of human self, we are an infinitely split personality. We are the one eternal I am with an infinitely split personality. The one I am has one soul and infinite selves. And it is good that it be so. Nothing else would work. Nothing else could work. And anything other than that would be awful, awful. What is simple truth, free from personality, at the soul level, becomes story at the self level. It becomes richly idiosyncratic story by the time that simple truth has expressed itself out into infinite complexity, human experience. And it is good. An eternity without story would be awful, awful. Why am I talking about all of this? So that you can understand who I see myself as. Before we entered amnesia together, we planned together. Okay, here's where we are headed, and here's how we are going to navigate. On this leg of the journey here, you'll do this, you'll go there and do that. When this happens, we'll do this, etc. But of course, we know that once we embark on our journey into amnesia, the dancing partner of our self-designed plans will be the happenstance of mystery, the unpredictable, loving embrace of that part of existence that is beyond our own resolution, our own level of self-definition, our own ability to calculate, to know. I'm talking about my Sally and your probably unnamed core and higher self. I'm talking about the greater and deeper field around and within us that is still us directly. It's just that the scale that is most easily and naturally coherent to us personally is the human scale. That's the one we see and feel. We plan out our journey together because we are one, but then we actually have to take the journey. We take a deep breath, summon our courage, and together we dive outwards into further and richer self-division. The story of the journey happens along the way. We write it as we go with our choices. I am just the specific guy who got my specific task, just as you are all about your specific tasks, just as you are all over your self-chosen tasks like a spider monkey. And so, here I am, executing my task as best I can in the mysterious and beautiful face of receding self-polarization that thins and parts to make way for the wide open expanse of unwritten possibility that it reveals. mystery in both directions. And that, perhaps ironically, is my clarity in this current and very specific moment we are sharing here now. Who am I? Well, at the very least, we know I am the eternal one I am, because we know that we are all the eternal one I am. Should we allow this man here, this Yanto character, the honor of such high status as being recognized as the human man that was once known as Jesus, even as we recognize that all honor goes to the same one eternal soul, because there is no other soul for it to go to. So even while we recognize that every one of us is the embodiment of the most highly honored, recognizing me is not a duty for you to fulfill. It is a kindness to bestow upon me. If I am here to teach universal compassion, believe me, it really is in the anticipation of you eventually showing that compassion to me. A handful of you recognizing me not in some kind of reverent awe, but in some kind of sincere compassion. That's the soothing acknowledgement I am anticipating with gratitude. When those around me are able to place a reassuring hand on my back and say, "Okay, Yanto, well done. Take a break, man. We've got this next bit. We'll spruce the place up for you a bit, make you a true home. You just take a well-earned holiday." Well, like I say, I anticipate that with great gratitude. Do you know what it's like for me? Do you know what it's like for me to have grown up in this worldwide culture just the same as everyone else, to have received the same lies from the moment of my birth, to have taken those lies into myself as my own handed down model of reality, and then, shortly after that, to be told I am the man that half of the people have been waiting for to return, while the other half don't believe it is possible for anybody to ever return from anywhere. Do you know what it's like for me to realize that half of you cannot believe in me, while the other half can only doubt me because I don't match the description on the wanted poster? Do you know how embarrassing that can feel? Our culture programs us to feel self-conscious and insufficient, and I am no exception. And it is necessary and inevitable that I am no exception. What would be most helpful to us all? An expert in that which we would like to learn, who has just shown up fully formed, or somebody just like yourself, who we watch become an expert in all that we would like to know? Have a think about that. Do you know what it's like For the man who has been told both the simplest, easiest to believe truth and the most mysterious, hardest to accept truth in quick succession. The hardest truth feels almost impossible to accept, while the simplest is impossible to deny. Do you know what it's like for him when both of these things he has been told are the opposite, the inversion of what we have all been told our whole life long they must be? Do you know what it's like for me to witness my truth entering the ear of a friend and see how they twitch and shake their head, because this truth is buzzing in their head like a fly. But all it has to buzz against in there is long settled in lies that are incompatible with it. They shake their head until the fly comes out the other ear, and they return gratefully to the scheduled program of lies with which they are most familiar and comfortable. Do you know what it's like for me to witness that over and over? Do you know what it's like for me to be alone in the truth? I am here. I am returned. I am back again, as requested by so many. And here is his question to you. Do you know what it's like for me to be here and yet still be alone in the truth? Am I here for you, or are you here for me? Or could it perhaps be both? It is both. I am as much a misshapen bag of fumblings and errors as any. My life is completely a misshapen bag of my own idiosyncratic comings and goings, doings and not doings, my own ridiculously idiosyncratic life history. Everything I have known about existence at this human scale so far. Do you know what it's like for me to see the infinite implications of the one simplest truth that cannot not be true, while I can't find anybody else who is willing to see? That is what the culture of lies is, what it propagates with its own contagious thinking, its own self-replicating thinking. The unwillingness to see and believe the simplest truth. And the one simplest truth is truth. If you need a name for your God, let it be truth. If you need a name for the primary source of physical existence, then let it be truth. There is never an energy crisis, because there is never an absence of, a failing to function of truth. And truth provides all energy, because energy is expression of truth, iteration of truth. Everything that iterates across space and time is expression of truth. Everything. And the truth of your thoroughly unique to you existence is entirely a product of the truth of your choices. An infinite line of them lie behind you, and an infinite array of them arrives and presents itself to you every moment of every day, in direct response to the line of choices that have been made before. Existence is a grand echo chamber, and we keep ourselves company in here. Do you know what it's like for me to live in a tiny bubble of heaven amidst a crashing ocean of lies, for the simple reason that I am a tiny bubble of heaven? I see no energy crisis in or around me, ever. All I see is the unstoppable beauty of truth, asserting, demanding, forcefully and implacably, more and more, and still more, always more, and never-endingly more. More truth. More and more truth is all we ever get. I live in a bubble of truth at the surface of an ocean of lies and liars. Only I have solid rock under my feet, while all around me are at sea. You are the eternal one I am, and you will never end. You will only know more and more and more. This is what the newborn child needs to hear. The truth. And it is only in being your own bubble of heaven, your own bubble of truth, in the first place, that your bubble can expand and join with any other bubbles of heaven that you may possibly find. You become coherent to yourself. Then, and only then, can you become truly coherent with the world, with others. My 4 great personal revelations, each on its own, would be enough to turn my world inside out. But I've been required to have all 4 of them stack in layers, one atop the other, one by one. First came solving existence, turning my world inside out at the mental level. Second came my being told I was him, turning my world inside out at the spiritual level. Third came my falling in love with somebody, turning my world inside out at the emotional level. Fourth came my recognizing the betrayal of me by my loved ones, turning my world inside out at the worldly, physical level. And this brought me back full circle to the mental level, recognizing the betrayal of the physical world had entered inside me, from my external world and into my own mental processes, where I chose to believe lies for the sake of an easier life. And that is the lie, because the last thing that becoming a liar does is make existence easier. The lie does not bring what the lie says it is going to bring. Now, I'm not going to tell the story of my 3rd great revelation, me falling in love with someone. Not here, because that wouldn't be fair to her. But this revelation turns my world inside out just as much as solving existence does, or being shown I was him, or suffering the great betrayal. If anything, it feels like the greatest revelation of all, but that shouldn't be surprising, as the third revelation is the revelation of the emotions. And it turns out that the essence of the third revelation, falling in love with somebody else, is self-love. It's that thing that has been so thoroughly beaten out of us. What we seek to see in our lover's eye is our own love reflected back to us. And this just cannot happen if we don't actually have any, because that's not how reflections work. Self-love is your love of yourself. Our culture discourages this. Overtly, we are told to act well and feel good about ourselves, but implicitly, we are told that the standard is almost certainly beyond our reach. And this is a shame, because loving yourself is literally the most important thing for you to do in your entire existence. It's the most crucial thing in anybody and everybody's existence. In our culture, we are taught to put ourself, our ego, last. Our own self, which gives us everything and gives it forever. I am not here to sacrifice my own dear self. I encourage you to stop sacrificing your own dear self and instead soothe it. Ask it what it wants. Let yourself see that you are prepared to look out for it and find a way to get it what it most deeply desires, even while you recognize there's going to be some degree or other of happenstance along the way. While you continue to keep loving yourself way down your own list of priorities or off it completely, you are fucking up. You are fucking everything up for yourself. There's no point in sugarcoating it. You are self-saboteur. You are self-sacrificing. And it will continue for as long as you continue it. All I or anyone else can do is leave you to it. Get that self-love to the very top of your priorities and keep it there. This is your spiritual practice, you beautiful numbskulls. And make sure as best you can that anybody under your care is encouraged to do the same. My fourth layer of revelation, that of being betrayed. This also came to me in layers. That I was betrayed by politics and government was already accepted by me, to the point where I barely even think about it anymore. Our politicians and governments are corrupt. Yes, yes, yes. We all understand it. None of us know what to do about it. And so it has been for as long as we can remember. This is no revelation. Not for most of us. When we remember through rose-tinted glasses how politicians used to be trustworthy, we're not remembering how politicians used to be trustworthy. We are simply remembering the days when we used to believe they were, because we were too young to notice. We were really watching an extremely costly version of professional wrestling. And I was strangely content with this situation. It wasn't until I experienced the next layer of betrayal, the betrayal of those who were actually close to me in my life, that I experienced an alarming panic that made me feel acutely vulnerable and paranoid. And it wasn't until I realized that this betrayal came all the way up to my front door, into my home, and straight into me, that I finally felt empowered. When everybody else is betraying you, one feels helpless. When one realizes one is betraying oneself, well, this is something you can actually do something about. We are all under this same betrayal, whether we are conscious of it or not. And recognizing the sheer scale of betrayal prevalent in our society can lead us to ask the question, to be or not to be a conspiracy theorist. But it is not a question of us asking, who is it exactly that is lying to us the most? It is about us recognizing together, okay, we have all been thoroughly infected with not knowing the truth since forever, since we can remember, and here we all are, still at it, still in it. And that is and has been every single one of us. Who is the culprit? There is no culprit, because we are all the culprit. You are the conspiracy theorist who has followed the rabbit hole all the way back to the one that burrowed it. You are the culprit, your own self-confuser, your believer in the best lies you can find to choose. But you are an entirely innocent culprit. Because how can anyone choose truth until somebody has actually found it in the first place? There is, to be sure, a great deal of hate in our world, in our culture, our society. And this is not restricted by age or gender or race or social demographics. It is not restricted to rich and powerful child torturers. Anybody can seethe with hatred. Anybody can cast curses. And to widely varying degrees, we all do. And so, our shared culture is as it is, has become as it currently is. And it turns out that we are all innocent child torturers. Conspiracy case closed. It was both the first conspiracy and the last. We have all lied innocently by default, because truth was buried deep out of sight beneath a thick layer of confusion, and we all did and have done the very best we could, even when we were doing terrible and brutal things to ourselves and each other. The ones we hate the very most should have our undying love and compassion if we actually lived through their story ourselves. Only we have lived our own story, and we do not love ourselves. So perhaps I'm talking nonsense? What do you think? The first lies we were told were those lies that were told to us when we were young and didn't know how to distrust what we were told. It didn't even occur to us. From there, we went on to live our lives on the basis of what those lies were. That the world is big and tough, and that we are small and weak. And we need to be both lucky and strategic if we are to gain anything good for ourselves at all before everything is taken away from us forever. And so it is that we hate and hurt those who we would love if we truly knew who it was we were hating and hurting. I dipped my toe into the pool of conspiracy theorism for a little while, and I recommend that you do also, if you haven't done so before. But I only recommend you visit there. Don't make yourself comfortable and stay. Some of the conspiracies are complete and utter nonsense. Some are tragically true. But even if you identify correctly, one way or the other, which is which, it alters nothing but your own perceptions. The external world continues to turn as it did before you noticed. It's only your world that is now tilted at a different angle. And here's the thing about paranoia. If paranoia is believing that people are out to get you who are not out to get you, then for sure, paranoia is not a desirable thing. But one shouldn't allow one's fear of being seen as paranoid to become so acute that you don't even check that people are not out to get you in some way. It is a very, very, very common practice for some of us to attach ourselves to some others of us and feed off them energetically, like psychic parasites, like leeches. And when we do this, we do our best to make the host feel as if this is perfectly natural. This type of thing happens in an infinity of different manners. The leech can seem stronger than the host, and they can seem weaker than the host. The leech and the host can appear to be complete equals. Sometimes both leech and host recognize openly that one is feeding off the other. And sometimes one or both of them is deceitful, in denial about it. Do not be paranoid. And the way to not be paranoid is to check. Check that people are not deceptively leeching off you. If they're doing it openly and you are in agreement that you're fine with it, then that is cool and no paranoia is required anyway. But it is all too easy to allow others to tell you what and where your place is so that you may remain in place and continue to nourish them with your own life force. Yes, we all desire guidance from others from time to time, and guidance can be found, but we need to care enough in the first place to spend the time and energy necessary to be discerning in our choices. Don't let your fear of being labelled as paranoid keep you from your primary responsibility of taking care of yourself. You are the one who knows what you need, nobody else. Good guidance from others is a treasure to be prized. Bad guidance with deceptive and leech-like intent, we want to nip that stuff in the bud at the earliest opportunity. And if you yourself are a leech, and you don't know how to stop, understand this. Just because you see yourself as a leech, it doesn't mean you can't have leeches attached to you. If you are feeling weak, rather than gain your strength from others, instead reclaim your strength by disconnecting any leeches that are siphoning it from you. In discovering the discernment to recognize and remove unwanted leeches, you will recover your vitality and not need to act like a vampire to others yourself. Does this mean we become cold and heartless to each other? Quite the opposite. When we have nourished ourself by being there for ourself, we then support others without strain. Self-love is the first stop. It is not something that you do so that you can then say, "It is now done." It does not end. You keep doing it, on and on. The necessity for it does not ever end. Self-love. And this is what it means to be in a committed relationship. Self-love is your first goal, your first priority. And that goes directly against all of your cultural programming. Once you do begin to engage your own self-love, recognizing and removing leeches becomes easier and easier until it is fully natural to you once again. Self-love. You are eternal. You owe it to yourself at all times, in all places. You are always doing the best you can, and you should be so proud of yourself. You know what you've been through. You do not owe an apology for anything at all. You really don't. You only owe love the chance to grow. And you owe this to yourself, for your beautiful self. The world I invite you to step into, this cognitive shift, the world of knowing what is going on, the world of truth and coherency. It is frightening. To you, it is frightening. It is frightening to you because you are afraid. You are afraid. You are afraid, and you're in good company, because we are all afraid. To be in self-polarization is a fearful thing. But be sure of this. The specific idiosyncratic world you currently find yourself in is the world you chose to step into because you were invited to step into it by people who told you it is real. People who do not know if it is real or not. The people who invited you into the world you currently inhabit were liars. Liars who believed the lies that they themselves had been told. As you became a liar when you chose to believe that that which does not make sense to you does make sense to you. This is the self-lie. This is the culprit, if one must be found. This is the utterly innocent culprit, and it is you. If something does not make sense to you, recognize it and be honest that you recognize it. Otherwise, you lie to yourself and simply go along with the lies of your choosing and follow where they lead. This is your self-responsibility, your own honesty to yourself. The great truth I bring is the simplest and easiest to know. It being the simplest means it is both the most powerful and the one most easily accessible to anybody. There are truths that cannot not be true, and everything else is an ongoing result of the ongoing and unbreakable truth of this. Don't wait for somebody else to tell you it is okay to believe that which already makes perfect sense to you. Certainly don't wait for respectable scientists and mathematicians to tell you. They are the last people you should be looking to for wise counsel. They claim the most credibility and have the least. They know the opposite, the inversion of truth. One thing I believe is certain: existence could not be solved by anybody hindered with a good education. They don't even know what it is that they are saying they believe. They say it is impossible to know the thing they are saying they believe. And this is known as religion. I don't subscribe to religion or occultism because I say we can know and need to know the truth at its simplest and most primary level. And this, the knowing of the simplest truth, it remains powerfully true in the face of all mystery, as and when mystery presents itself, because all mystery is nothing more than highly complex iteration of the one simplest truth. Existence solved. There is absolute truth and its relative expression. That is what there is, and that is all there is. Here is where we find balance, stability, coherency, both power and humility, freedom and self-responsibility. We recognize truth as a living organism. We recognize truth as the living organism. And we recognize our self as it. So, what are we, what is humanity to do? What are we to do if only a few of us can see the truth and everybody else still sees only old lies to be committed to? What are we to do if we are few and poor while they are many and wealthy? Oh me, oh my. Leave them to it. Look after yourself. Look after anybody you care for. That's what you do. And do not let the child be harmed. That's all we do. There are those who are the elite amongst the elite, who are no less intelligent than anybody else, who will see the truth for what it is, the gift of all gifts, and breathe a sigh of relief. At last, some truth I can really believe in. And there will be seemingly good and wholesome people who will not see it for a time. It's not so much that we seek to change the world around us. It's that we change how we see ourself. And the world around ourself then changes. You change how you see yourself, and the specific world around specifically you then changes. You don't make liars stop lying. You simply stop lying yourself. Stop lying to yourself. You don't change their world. You step out of their world and into your own. The difference between these worlds is that you understand your world and they do not understand theirs. And them not understanding their own world renders them, in direct proportion to the extent of their not understanding, into tortured children. Don't be a tortured child. Know truth. Look after yourself. Be free. Be powerful. Be humble. Be self-responsible. Enjoy. Do not let the child be harmed. Be honest. Be kind. Be willing to laugh. You've got this. It's only your eternity that you need to take direct responsibility for. The old system of lie culture, politics, industry, education, etc., they will melt from the inside in their own time as more and more people who are no less intelligent than anybody else come to recognize the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is what both religion and science are meant to have authority in, and neither of them do. You have sole authority in your world over your eternity. What riches do you think this eternity may hold in store for you? How much do you think you deserve? Time may surprise you. Time will actually surprise you. The reason you will be surprised by just how much you prove yourself to deserve is because your judgments are all bullshit. Every last one. If that sounds like I am being judgmental, I'm not. I'm being discerning. This thing here works. This thing there doesn't work. There's no moral judgment in it. The discernment is that moral judgment doesn't work. Therefore, because of your own erroneous judgments on yourself, you will be surprised by just how much time shows you to deserve. You never need be maliciously envious. If somebody has more than you right now, and you put your energy into believing they don't deserve it, and that you should have had your rewards by now, then you just don't understand enough about physics. That's all. You are all afraid of me. I've come to see this. It wasn't something that occurred to me at first because I'm just not used to looking at myself like that. But I see it more and more, and it begins to make sense. We are afraid of me, and we have taught me to hold myself back. And in so doing, we teach all of us that we must hold ourselves back. We tell each other that we are short-lived when we are eternal. We tell each other that we know nothing when we know all we need to know. We tell each other that we are weak when each of us is in creation of an entire eternity. We tell each other that we are bad when we are so very, very good. Eternity just wouldn't be the same without any single one of us. Really, I'm the last one you should be afraid of, whoever you are. Here's something funny you can know about me. The revelations about the nature of reality, when I had them, I was so stunned by the scale and depth of them that I literally could only worry. How am I going to be able to live my heaven while the entire world is beating at my door for my attention? Because beyond any doubt, that would be the expected natural response of the world to a revelation of this magnitude. And this is very funny. Ain't nobody beating at my door. Not right this moment. It seems I have all the time in the world to be left alone by you, so I can tend to my heart's desire, my third revelation, being a lover in love in this landscape of lies. So please, all of you, feel free to take your time before you come beating at my door and I then have to ask you to please go away again. Take all the time you need. I'm busy anyway. I'm good. I'm more than good. I don't trust, have faith, as some kind of act of will, of forceful intent. I don't strain to trust. I have faith in this existence because I am no longer in the position not to. I've just seen too much. Yes, me, a mere underachiever from Salford, who somehow avoided the hindrance of a good education. Sitting alone at his sit spot on the edge of the woods, sitting alone in his flat. Him, me. I've just seen too much because I paid that much honest attention to be in any doubt of what I've seen. And you? You must do your own seeing.